Are you certain that what once brought you relief for decades is still safe now that you're over 70? Here's something most people don't tell you. Masturbation isn't always harmless, especially not when your body has already passed its prime years. In fact, what once felt normal and even therapeutic might now be quietly affecting your prostate, your nervous system, your blood circulation, and even your sleep, all of which are vital to both your physical and emotional well-being in your later years. I'm Dr. Daniel Monroe, a specialist in men's health with over 6 decades of clinical experience. After speaking with thousands of men over the age of 60, from widowers and singles to married men who feel increasingly distant from themselves, I've come to one powerful realization. Desire doesn't disappear. It simply changes form, and when we don't listen to it with the wisdom of age, it can backfire, draining our energy, chipping away at our self-esteem, and disturbing our inner peace. The core issue is this: your body, after 60, does not function like it did at 30. Your cardiovascular system is less robust. Testosterone levels fluctuate more wildly. Your sympathetic nervous system is more easily overstimulated, and your recovery from stimulation is far slower. Yet many men continue to repeat the same habits with the same pace and expectations. The result: chronic fatigue, disrupted sleep, emotional stress, and a long-term decline in libido. But the damage isn't just physical. Many older men fall into cycles of anxiety, guilt, or self-blame, unaware that the true cause is simply a lack of understanding about their aging bodies. Masturbation isn't wrong, but doing it the wrong way, at the wrong time, and with the wrong mindset becomes a silent enemy. In today's video, I'll walk you through 5 common mistakes older men make when it comes to self-pleasure. Small missteps that can cascade into serious health setbacks. But this is not just about warnings. I'll also show you how to adapt so that this natural part of life becomes healthy, restorative, and safe. And at the end of the video, I'll share a simple nighttime self-care method you can begin using tonight. Just a few minutes that can help restore relaxation, rebalance your hormones, and promote deep, peaceful sleep. If you're ready to better understand and protect this deeply personal part of your health, stay with me until the end. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button, because your well-being in later life should never be left to chance. Mistake number 1: ignoring your body's new limits. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly paused and asked yourself, can my body still handle what it once could? Because one of the most overlooked, yet dangerous, mistakes older men make is pretending that nothing has changed. The truth is, after age 70, your body speaks a different language. But many men fail to listen. They continue engaging in self-pleasure with the same speed, pressure, or urgency that felt natural in their youth, believing intensity equals effectiveness. Unfortunately, that assumption can lead to consequences that go far beyond momentary fatigue. What once felt invigorating may now trigger unexpected responses: sudden dizziness, rapid heartbeat, or even sharp cramps in your pelvic muscles. These signs are not simply random, they are your body's way of saying, slow down. And while these symptoms might seem minor, when repeated over time, they can place real strain on your cardiovascular system, especially for men living with hypertension, diabetes, or pre-existing heart conditions. But this isn't just about the heart. Your pelvic floor muscles, the unseen foundation of your urinary and sexual health, also bear the brunt. During climax, these muscles contract rapidly. When overstressed, they can become fatigued or overly tense, which may lead to groin discomfort, urinary urgency, or in some cases, even stress incontinence. These outcomes aren't just physical, they often create emotional turmoil, embarrassment, confusion, and even avoidance of intimacy altogether. This is where wisdom comes in. Self-pleasure after 60 should never feel like a performance test. It should feel like a gentle conversation between you and your body. You are not proving anything. You are honoring sensation, connection, and care. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Instead of rushing, try slowing your rhythm. Use softer touch, quiet surroundings, and deep, intentional breathing. Reframe this moment not as a task to finish, but as a space to nourish yourself. Proper posture and brief rest periods during stimulation can drastically reduce physical strain while heightening awareness and satisfaction at this stage of life. Pleasure becomes less about force and more about presence. When you release the old narrative of speed and strength, you open the door to something deeper, subtler sensations, emotional grounding, and longer-lasting peace afterward. The main takeaway: you are not a lesser man because you've slowed down. You are a wiser one because you've adapted. Respecting your current limits is not surrender, it's strength. And the men who embrace this shift often discover a renewed connection with themselves they never expected. So, as we continue, keep this in mind. If your body is whispering, don't drown it out with old habits. Listen, adjust, and let self-care become part of your healing, not your harm. Mistake number 2. Overstimulating the brain with pornographic content. Now that we've explored the physical boundaries of an aging body, let's turn inward to the mental and emotional landscape. You see, many older men think of self-pleasure only in terms of physical performance. But what if I told you that what you watch may have just as much impact on your energy, your mood, and your long-term intimacy as how your body moves? So here's the next mistake: overstimulating your brain with pornographic content. Let me ask you something. How often do you use highly explicit content just to get the job done, even if it doesn't truly resonate with how you feel? In today's digital age, porn is faster, more extreme, and more accessible than ever before. While a younger brain may have the flexibility to bounce back from repeated exposure, the aging brain does not adapt as kindly. The human brain releases dopamine, the pleasure chemical in response to sexual arousal. That's completely normal. But when the brain is repeatedly flooded with high-intensity visual stimulation, it begins to demand more just to feel the same amount of pleasure. This is known as dopamine desensitization, and it's one of the silent disruptors of joy and connection in older adulthood. Over time, this overstimulation dulls the brain's reward system. Things that once brought you genuine satisfaction, like physical closeness with a partner, a meaningful touch, or even a flirtatious conversation, can begin to feel ... flat. It's not because you've lost your desire, it's because your brain's baseline for pleasure has shifted. And for men in their 60s, 70s, or beyond, when hormone levels are already naturally declining, this overstimulation can become emotionally draining. Many men report increased irritability, anxious thoughts, or a lingering sense of emptiness after watching explicit material, especially when it's used as a coping mechanism for loneliness, boredom, or grief. What starts as a private habit can slowly erode your emotional resilience and even cloud your memory, focus, and sleep quality. You might notice yourself feeling more disconnected, not just from others, but from your own body and emotions. Here's the deeper problem. Most modern pornography isn't designed with older adults in mind. It often portrays unrealistic scenarios. artificial intensity, and youthful bodies that may not reflect your current stage of life. This mismatch can create a painful internal gap between what you see and what you truly want. And when what's on the screen no longer aligns with what's in your heart, it's easy to assume the problem is you. But it's not. Your desires have matured and your content should too. So what can you do? Health professionals and therapists now recommend gentler alternatives that respect your age, your mind, and your body. Erotic literature, audio stories, or even simply reconnecting with your own imagination can provide arousal without hijacking your brain's reward system. These approaches not only reduce overstimulation, but also encourage deeper self-awareness. Try replacing hyperactive scrolling with a few minutes of mindful breathing or reflection before intimacy. Dim the lights. Set the mood. Let your body catch up with your thoughts. This shift alone can bring back layers of emotional warmth and physical pleasure that fast, high-stimulation content tends to bulldoze. And know you're not giving up pleasure. You're reclaiming it on your terms. This mistake also reminds us that sexuality in later life is less about friction and more about feeling. Less about novelty and more about meaning. And when you give yourself permission to slow down, to choose intentionally, and to be present, not performative, you protect not just your sexual health, but your cognitive and emotional well-being. 2. Remember, stimulation without satisfaction is like eating without taste. It leaves you full but unfed. By being selective, by choosing content, environments, and mindsets that nurture rather than numb you, align more closely with your real desires. And you build the emotional muscle to carry intimacy not just as an act, but as a way of being. So, as we move forward, let this settle in. Your brain is not broken. It's just overwhelmed. And with a few simple changes in what you expose it to, you can regain sensitivity, focus, and joy not just in private moments, but in how you feel throughout your day. In the next section, we'll uncover a third mistake, one that men rarely talk about, but that silently blocks the very energy they're trying to reclaim. Stay with me. Mistake number 3, neglecting prostate health. We've talked about the overstimulation of the brain. Now let's zoom in on something far more silent but equally critical, because sometimes the biggest danger isn't what we see, but what we ignore. So let me ask, when was the last time you truly considered your prostate before engaging in self-pleasure? It's a small gland, often overlooked in youth, but after age 70, your prostate becomes a central player in both your urinary health and your sexual well-being. And failing to adapt your habits to its changing needs is one of the most common yet underestimated mistakes older men make. As men age, the prostate naturally enlarges, a condition known as benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH. This isn't necessarily dangerous on its own, but it can put pressure on the bladder and disrupt urinary flow. Many men begin to experience symptoms like urgency, weak stream, difficulty starting urination, or even waking multiple times at night just to relieve themselves. Unfortunately, few connect these subtle signs to their sexual habits. That's the issue. Many older men continue to engage in masturbation with the same intensity, pressure, or frequency as they did in their 30s, without considering how those actions now affect their aging prostate. Strong gripping, delayed ejaculation, or rushing through the process without proper relaxation can irritate not just the gland, but the entire pelvic region. Over time, this irritation may lead to chronic pelvic discomfort, increased inflammation, and even mask the early signs of more serious prostate conditions. Another misguided belief is the idea that holding back ejaculation boosts endurance or testosterone. In reality, forcing retention or creating too much tension in the pelvic floor muscles can backfire, causing tightness, nerve irritation, and prolonged soreness. This is especially risky for men already managing prostatitis, a history of urinary infections, or pelvic floor dysfunction. The emotional toll is no less important. Pain or discomfort during or after masturbation can cause confusion, anxiety, or fear around intimacy, leading some men to withdraw from connection entirely. And yet, these consequences often stem not from the act itself, but from how it's being performed with force instead of care, with pressure instead of presence. So what's the better way? Health experts advise older men to approach self-pleasure with patience, gentleness, and full body awareness. That means listening to what your body feels, not what you expect it should feel like. Use slower pacing, lighter touch, and allow your body the time it needs for arousal and release. Most importantly, ensure that ejaculation is complete and unforced, never strained. And if you experience persistent pelvic pain, changes in semen color, or alterations in urinary patterns, don't brush it off. These may not be urgent emergencies, but they are warning signs. Left unchecked, they could signal more advanced prostate issues developing silently over time. Protecting your prostate is about respect. It's not about avoiding pleasure, it's about reframing it. In fact, when practiced mindfully, masturbation may even support prostate health by promoting circulation and helping eliminate stagnant fluids. But it has to be done with a new mindset, one rooted in body awareness, not outdated routine. Your body may not be 30 anymore, but that doesn't make it any less capable or any less worthy of care. It just means it needs a wiser approach. So here's the takeaway. Self-pleasure isn't wrong, but ignoring your prostate while doing it, that's the real mistake. And the men who take this seriously often find not only relief, but a surprising return of confidence, clarity, and even deeper intimacy. In the next section, we'll talk about one more habit, one that many believe to be harmless, yet it may be draining your vitality more than you realize. Stay with me. Mistake number 4. Using masturbation as an escape from loneliness or stress. Instead of seeking connection, we've just explored the physical side of neglecting the prostate. Now, let's shift to something far more hidden but equally impactful: the emotional motivations behind self-pleasure. Because sometimes, the most draining habits aren't the ones that hurt your body. They're the ones that quietly exhaust your spirit. So here's a question worth asking. Are you turning to self-pleasure to feel good, or simply to avoid feeling anything at all? As we age, emotional health becomes just as vital, if not more so, than physical health. For many older men, especially those who live alone or are grieving the loss of a partner, masturbation can evolve from a physical act into something much deeper. It becomes a temporary escape from silence, a way to soothe stress or sadness, or to fill emotional gaps left by isolation. There's nothing inherently wrong with seeking comfort in your own body. In fact, finding peace and familiarity within yourself can be healing. But there's a fine line between healthy self-care and using pleasure as a mask for emotional wounds. When masturbation becomes a substitute for genuine connection, it often loses its joy and instead becomes a repetitive reflex, a habit, driven by emotional avoidance rather than authentic desire. Over time, this can dull your emotional reward system. The act itself begins to feel automatic, lacking the fulfillment it once brought. Some men report feeling even lonelier or more disconnected afterward, especially when the habit becomes a way of avoiding deeper emotional truths. Rather than soothing loneliness, it quietly reinforces it. The problem isn't the action itself, it's the intention behind it. When self-pleasure is driven by boredom, anxiety, or emotional fatigue, it stops being about nourishment and becomes about numbness. The temporary relief it brings often fades quickly, replaced by a subtle but persistent sense of emptiness. This emotional toll is rarely discussed, especially among older men, many of whom were raised in generations where emotional needs were either ignored or minimized. But emotional hunger can't be fully satisfied by physical release alone. And many health professionals now agree. When you find yourself turning to masturbation more out of habit or emotion than genuine sexual desire, it's time to pay attention. So here's a powerful question to ask yourself. Am I doing this because it brings me joy, or because I don't want to feel something else? Sometimes that single question can open the door to profound awareness. It's not about guilt or shame, it's about getting curious. What does your heart really need? A meaningful phone call, a walk in fresh air, a return to an old hobby that once gave you purpose, choosing something small, reaching out to a friend, reading a book, meditating, or journaling can reconnect you to the emotional nourishment your body is silently asking for. These little shifts don't eliminate the need for pleasure. Restore the foundation on which healthy pleasure is built, because at this stage of life, the goal is not to avoid masturbation. The goal is to reclaim it as something conscious, affirming, and integrated into your emotional well-being. Self-pleasure can absolutely be healing, but only when it serves the whole of you, not just a fleeting moment. The most dangerous loneliness isn't when we have no one to talk to. It's when we begin feeling disconnected from ourselves. And that's what this mistake warns us about. Pleasure, just like love should, never feel like a substitute for what's missing. It should feel like something added to what's already whole. So, the next time you find yourself reaching for that moment of relief, pause for just a second. Ask your body what it truly needs. Ask your heart what it might be trying to say. And if your answer leads you toward connection, creation, or even gentle stillness, you'll know you've stepped into a new chapter of self-awareness. Coming up next, we'll explore one more mistake that many older men unknowingly make, one tied not to the body or emotions, but to timing. It may seem harmless, but it could be silently draining your vitality when you need it most. Mistake number 5. Ignoring erectile dysfunction or performance anxiety. We talked about how emotional habits can quietly wear down the spirit, but now we turn to another, equally silent intruder, one that not only affects how you feel, but how you expect to perform. This next mistake can gradually steal your peace of mind without you even noticing it. Ignoring erectile dysfunction or performance anxiety. Let me ask you this. Are you truly listening to what your body is telling you? Or are you stuck measuring yourself against a version of the past that no longer fits? As men age, changes in sexual function are common yet rarely welcomed. For many men in their 70s and beyond, the body simply responds differently. Erections may take longer, feel softer, or not last as long. These changes are completely natural, but instead of accepting them with wisdom, many older men interpret these shifts as failures, as if they signal something broken, something shameful. In response, they begin using masturbation not as a moment of self-pleasure, but as a performance test. It becomes less about enjoyment and more about evaluation. Can I still get hard? Am I taking too long? Did I lose it again? This mindset quietly shifts the entire experience from healing to pressure-filled, and pressure is the enemy of pleasure. Performance. Anxiety doesn't just live in the mind, it triggers a full body response. As tension builds, the body releases cortisol, a stress hormone. And here's the crucial truth. Cortisol and arousal don't work well together. The more stress you carry into the moment, the more difficult it becomes to relax and respond naturally. What may start as a subtle concern can evolve into a recurring challenger loop of self-doubt, tension, and growing disappointment. Many men don't realize this cycle is both psychological and physical. Ignoring erectile issues or letting them quietly define your sense of self is one of the most harmful patterns older men fall into. Instead of adapting with grace, many choose to suffer in silence, too ashamed or uncertain to talk to a doctor or even acknowledge the issue to themselves. But here's the truth. Erectile changes are not a verdict on your masculinity. They're biology doing what biology does. And here's the good news. There are many healthy, effective ways to support sexual wellness without shame, without panic, and without turning your body into a battleground. It begins with a mindset shift. Reframe self-pleasure not as a pass or fail test, but as an act of gentle self-care. It's not about how long you last or how firm you get. It's about how comfortable you feel in your own skin. It's about returning to a space where you're allowed to feel not judged. When this shift happens, the pressure disappears. And often, when the pressure disappears, the body responds more freely. Of course, when the concern goes beyond stress, when persistent erectile challenges show up, or changes in fluid or sensitivity arise, reaching out for support is not weakness. In fact, it's one of the strongest, most self-respecting things you can do. Many underlying issues, from circulation to medication, side effects to hormonal imbalance, can be managed effectively when acknowledged early. Simple, sustainable steps can make a difference. Deep, relaxed breathing before and during a unrushed, stimulation-fulness-based touch rather than outcome-focused effort, regular movement or pelvic exercises to support circulation. But perhaps the most important step is this: drop the script. The old story that performance defines manhood has never served older men well. It reduces intimacy to a checklist and disconnects you from what truly matters. Presence. It's not your performance that defines you, it's your presence. Your ability to show up fully, to feel without judging, and to allow joy to happen without chasing it. The body may age, but the capacity for joy, sensuality, and connection does not vanish. It evolves, it softens, and in many ways, it deepens if you allow it so. Next time you notice that old internal voice critiquing your arousal or comparing you to your younger self, pause, ask yourself, am I here to perform more, to feel? Because feeling is where the healing is. In the final section of this video, we'll explore a timing-related habit that might seem harmless, but could actually be draining your strength when you need it most. Conclusion: reclaiming intimacy in the golden years. Now that we've explored the 5 most common masturbation mistakes older men make and the deeper reasons behind them, it's time to turn knowledge into action. Because awareness alone isn't enough. Healing, transformation, and fulfillment come when you begin applying what you've learned with care and intention. So what can you do, starting today? First, slow down. Let go of outdated expectations rooted in youth and start listening to the language of your body as it is now. Whether it's adjusting the way you touch, the reasons behind the habit, or the pace at which you engage, remember, It's not about doing more, it's about doing it differently. Second, shift your mindset. Masturbation in your 60s, 70s, or beyond shouldn't be a test of performance. It should be an act of connection, reflection, and self-respect. Gentle touch, emotional clarity, and deep awareness can transform even the simplest moment into something restorative. And third, release the shame. None of this is about guilt or weakness. It's about wisdom. Your body is not failing, evolving, and with that evolution comes a powerful invitation to rediscover pleasure with presence, purpose, and peace of mind. You deserve that. You deserve to feel connected to yourself, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. You deserve pleasure that affirms who you are, not who you used to be. Because intimacy doesn't fade with age, it matures. It becomes richer, deeper, and more meaningful when guided by self-awareness. So if this message resonates with you, I invite you to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. You never know who might benefit from hearing your story. And if you found value in this video, please take a moment to like it, and if you haven't yet, consider subscribing and turning on the notification bell. Not because you have to, but because your health, your vitality, and your sense of connection are worth investing in. Now, more than ever, you are not alone, you are not broken. And it's never too late to reclaim joy in your body, your spirit, and your life.